Welcome, Reds, the 100% United podcast, greatest Manchester United Goalkeeper Special. I'm your host, TC, and I'm joined by my co-host, Scott. Hello, mate.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, pal. Yourself?
All right, thanks.
Good, man. On today's show, we look at the top keepers to have played for United in the modern era and choose who we regard as the greatest of our time. From Peter Schmeichel through Edwin van der Sar to current incumbent David de Gea, we've been blessed with incredible keepers and a host of amazing memories to go with them. You've been looking forward to this one, Scott?
Oh, yeah, look forward to them all, don't I?
But keepers are especially close to your heart. I remember you when you were a lad being a fan of Peter Schmeichel and his snazzy goalkeeper shirts, right?
Yeah, as long as we do a top 5 goalkeeper shirts, I'll be happy.
Top 5? You're more like top 15 with you around, mate.
No, I've whittled it down to 5.
Good man. Well, as we said at the end of the last pod, probably best not to go into keepers who we haven't seen play, of course, before our time. I think it gets a bit silly when you're trying to do the greatest of all time and you haven't actually seen a proper season, at least, of one of these keepers. So, your Alex Stepneys, your Harry Greggs, legends of the club, we won't include in today, but probably be narrowed down to 3: Peter Schmeichel, Edwin van der Sar, and David de Gea, with a few classic mentions on top.
Yeah, I think you just say best goalkeeper of the Premier League era.
That suits me. Well, Schmeichel signed in 91, of course. He did win the Super Cup after just a few months at the club against Red Star Belgrade. First time we played them since, of course, the Munich air disaster. Only 22,000 at that one, Scott, at Old Trafford.
Really?
Yeah. Obviously not so in fashion in those days, and it was in the middle of the season, of course. We didn't play the second leg because of the problems in Yugoslavia, but that was the first trophy that Schmeichel got, and he got another one before in the 91-92 season, the League Cup, winning it on my birthday against Forest, and we wore that lovely blue kit as well that day.
Yeah, I love that kit.
Yeah. Schmeichel's kit was pretty nice that year. We'll get to that later. But of course, the first Premier League trophy, 92-93, Schmeichel, an absolute integral part of it. It seemed that he was, wasn't he, a massive part of that jigsaw all come together. We mentioned on the Eric Cantona special pod that team just came together, and from the back to the front, it was just superb in terms of mentality and skill. He brought so much to that to an already growing team, didn't he, Scott?
Yeah, and he definitely made the defence work twice as hard, didn't he? I remember he used to berate them on occasions, and he would certainly make everyone play on top of their game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I think I was thinking about this with the different attitudes we've had of our keepers, our great keepers. You've obviously got Schmeichel, who's very, very vocal. Yeah, and Edwin van der Sar, who was a figure that you respected and who did have big discussions with his defenders, but wasn't sort of barking orders at them. And I just wonder whether that, of course, they had Cantona as their inspiration, that young crop that came through the class of 92, as people call them. But I just wonder whether, say, the Nevilles would have flourished as much if they didn't have that sort of guy beating them with a stick every blooming week in training and at the weekend in matches too.
Probably not. I think he was such a massive leader of that squad. And, you think of when Van der Sar came in, he came into a defence that already had Ferdinand, Vidic, Evra and Gary Neville. And I think he come into that situation in a different way that Schmeichel was with the defence in the early Premier League years. I think he really, more or less, a captain without the captain's armband.
Yeah, and I think with Schmeichel, it's his body of work over the 8 years at the club that stands out. There's magical saves, there's magical moments too, but he set that standard, and he just at times not only did he breathe fear into our own defence, but into strikers too. He, over his career, Ian Wright didn't get much joy against him, and that was pretty much because Schmeichel had him in the head, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Ian Wright's a bit of a jerk, to be honest. He still is.
But as I say, we did clinch the title in 92-93. Schmeichel was in the PFA Team of the Year that year. Can you believe that was the only year that Schmeichel was ever in the PFA Team of the Year?
No, I can't.
I mean, it gets worse when you think of the people who have been in it. I mean, David James has been in it umpteen times. We'll get to later how many times.
Didn't Paul McGrath win the PFA Player of the Year that year? Paul McGrath won it in the year that we won the league. I find that to be amazing.
You know what? When you look through history, I mean, Shearer, Les Ferdinand and Alan Shearer won it, I think, in 95, 96, 97. Mm-hmm. And we were knocking them all over the park. And I mean, David Ginola won it in 99.
Yeah.
And you just think, blooming hell. I mean, of course, the votes had done a little bit before the end of the season. So people hadn't clocked yet that we were going to win it again.
And the votes are usually done by anti-United lots.
Well, yes, I mean it's done by all the other players, isn't it? Do you think that the fact Schmeichel didn't win it was because he struck so much fear into the other? He was such a dislikable character for the opposition players.
Definitely, definitely.
So 93, 94, massive season for United, Premier League and FA Cup winners, double winners, with Schmeichel at the helm. And again, he was just, like you say, he was becoming a leader of the team. 95 was the year that obviously we didn't win anything, got to the cup final, lost 1-0. Schmeichel did miss a number of games that year, didn't he? I think Gary Walsh played about 10 games that year. And but 96, 95, 96, we bounced back with another double, with Cantona missing the first couple of months and then coming back in. 97 Premier League again, 98. Arsenal did us to the league, and then 99, Schmeichel's final season at the club, winning the treble and captaining United at the Nou Camp to win the European Cup as well. A fitting ending for Peter Schmeichel.
Yeah, I mean, you can never look back at that and think that he left at a good time, right? I think he left years before he should have. But he had a bit of a dip in form in that early in that 99 season, and pretty much just made his decision that he needed to step back from one of the most high pressure jobs in football.
Yeah, you're right. He did have a bit of a dip in form. Like I say, with Schmeichel, it just seemed that when we needed him, he always came up with the goods. Of course, in '99, he, as we mentioned just the other week about the save from Dennis Bergkamp, one of his finest moments as a United keeper. And Bergkamp had only missed 2 out of 24 before that in his career.
Yeah, it was such a big moment for such a big moment player.
And never took another one.
Yeah.
And you're right, that's what Schmeichel did. It was, I mean, of course, the Newcastle game back in '96, Cantona clinching it with that bouncy volley. Again, Schmeichel had him in the head, didn't he? After 5 minutes, I think he'd saved a couple from Les Ferdinand. And already he was getting inside their heads that people had this thing with Schmeichel and to United in general. And they just feared us so much. They'd have a few shots, have a couple of one-on-ones early days, and they'd think, we're not going to beat Schmeichel today. And it would break them and their resolve.
Yeah, and you can sort of see that with De Gea as well, that there are some days that he just doesn't look beatable at all.
Yeah, we'll get to De Gea obviously later, and you are right, and you just wonder if De Gea had the structure around him, how history might be different. But Schmeichel, 5 Premier Leagues, 3 FA Cups, a League Cup, a Champions League, and a Super Cup in 8 years at the club, the most decorated keeper in our history. Of course, he won the Euros in '92 with Denmark as well, saving Van Basten's penalty in the shootout. It was he was, I mean, to my mind, the very greatest keeper of that time and possibly of all time.
Yeah, he never got as much credit as I wanted, as I thought he deserved. As you say, I think he was probably the best goalkeeper in the world at the time. But, you know, if anything, he always got overlooked by the Italian keepers or by Oliver Kahn as being the best, but it never made sense in my eyes.
I think we had such a great team. We had such great players throughout that team that people did want to sort of pick a weakness or sort of, I don't know, it seemed like we said with the players of the year as well. We didn't get as many as we should have.
Yeah, but you used to have these clowns thinking that David Seaman was actually a better or as good a keeper than him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mental.
Yeah, absolutely mental. Of course, we never forget his goal against Rota Volgograd, was it?
Yeah.
When he popped up. Do you think Andy Cole might have got the last touch on that?
Don't, come on.
I always thought that. I always thought it.
You tried taking that away from Schmeichel. No chance. Yeah. I think my favourite story was during that Class of '92 documentary that they said that Scozzy caught him on the Todger with a hot kettle. And he ended up getting chased all around the training ground, and he must have been, you know, you think he inspired that generation, but he must have been dealing with all sorts of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, he certainly is quite fond of himself. Roy Keane has quite a few things to say about him these days, but the one thing those two had, they obviously had their disagreements, but they had the utmost respect for each other as a player. Mm. And that's the thing with that United team. They weren't all pals. We all know about the Teddy Sheringham, Andy Cole whole thing of them not chatting, apart from on the pitch sometimes. But that team was a proper team, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. It was a proper team with proper leaders. And yeah, sure, you might not like that guy 100%, but on the field, you were best pals and you died for each other.
Yeah, I think that's if anything, it's an attitude that we're losing over the years, right? That now squads just want to be all chummy, and there to be so much chemistry that everyone loves each other. But when you have two individuals like Schmeichel and Keane who are both so focused on winning and winning at all costs,
Hmm.
then there's no time for sentiments, are there?
No, no, there's not at all. And like we said, he did step in for Keane to skipper the side in his last game for United. He did actually say he thought he might have left too early himself, and we did go into a little bit of a spiral. I think at the end we'll go through Schmeichel's best moments and best saves. I think
Okay.
after we'd gone through Van der Sar and De Gea, but there was that weird time between '99 and '05 between Schmeichel and Edwin van der Sar. We had 10 different keepers in those years. Barthez did win a couple of titles in his 3 years there, but it did end with him being a bit calamitous, didn't it? And I always thought, I was actually at Old Trafford when we beat Real Madrid but went out with Ronaldo bagging a hat-trick, and I always thought that it just... I know it might sound cliche, but he just seemed too short. I mean, like it seemed like even I know one of Ronaldo's goals, the long ranger. It just seemed that he had a great spring on him, but it didn't really go in the corner, did it?
No, I actually think that Fergie was always thinking that Schmeichel would make a U-turn and go against his decision, which is why we never really planned properly for him to leave.
Yeah,
And it never happened. And I think we were all pretty amazed with how badly we prepared for life after Schmeichel.
yeah, and I think Schmeichel said if Fergie had sat him down and had a word with him and said, "Come on, let's do a U-turn," then Schmeichel might have done it, but Fergie never did.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Sort of respected him too much, almost respected his decision.
I don't think you can say that and then go to City a few years later.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think that respect goes out the window with that. But let's carry on.
you know
Yeah.
what? I mean, that's a fair point. If you are looking at the full thing, that is definitely got to be a stain on Schmeichel's United credentials.
Yeah, it definitely got to be, especially because you can't talk about people not respecting you and then go to City a few years
Yeah, and
later.
it did. I mean, that did break my heart a little bit, I must say.
Oh, it broke everyone's heart.
It was just horrible, especially as the over celebrations as well. It wasn't nice. But anyway,
That's pathetic.
let's keep it nice.
Yeah.
So 10 keepers between '99 and '05. We had Barthez, of course. We had Massimo Taibi, who, you know what, he actually got man of the match on his debut against Liverpool. He almost chucked one in, and then he made a few good saves, got man of the match, and then a week or two later let that Letitia shot go through him, which went down in, obviously, Premier League history. We had Mark Bosnich came in as well.
Bosnich was crap as well.
We, of course, still had Raymond van der Houw, who, of course, was Schmeichel's backup towards the final few years. Walsh and Pilkington in the sort of mid-90s, and then Van der Houw was in there as well. Actually, the third oldest player to ever play for United.
Really?
Raymond van der Houw since the war, yeah. We had Nick Culkin. We all remember his one appearance, don't we, at Arsenal?
No.
Came on, took a goal kick, and that was it.
Oh,
His
yeah,
United career, 30 seconds long.
Who got knocked out that day?
It was Van der Houw.
Van der Houw, yeah. Van der Houw got knocked out.
It was Martin Keown kneed him, didn't he?
Yeah.
In the
And he got
head.
that huge shiner in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember that.
We had Paul Rachubka, got one appearance as well, kept a clean sheet. We had Ricardo. Remember Ricardo, the Spanish international, conceded a penalty, then saved it from David Dunn. It was a mad time. It really was. We had Andy Gorham, 2 games, 4 goals conceded as well.
What a bung that was. Fergie was on the take with that. Come on. Come on.
What a cheeky backhander.
Oh, ye old George Graham. Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't the greatest of times between '99 and '05. But then we signed Edwin van der Sar, and you know what? When it first happened, people were saying, "Oh, blimey, hell, Fergie's done it again. He can't spot a keeper." That was the thing, wasn't it? They said, "Oh, Fergie's great, but he can't spot a keeper." That was the new thing because they couldn't criticise him for anything else. So we got van der Sar in. Don't forget, he'd been at Fulham for, I think, 4 years, and wasn't off the chain for Fulham at all. I mean, he looked like he was on his way out. But the signing, it certainly changed history back in United's favour, didn't it?
It did. What a wonderful signing that was, and a masterstroke. If anything, it was just disappointed that we hadn't done it 4 years earlier.
Yeah, of course, because we had Howard and Carroll.
Oh, Roy Carroll, God, I actually forgot about Roy Carroll.
Well, we had him between 03 and 05. We had those two sharing, and we finished third in the league both years.
We
didn't finish.
Rubbish.
Although Roy Carroll did keep 23 clean sheets in 46 league appearances. Barthez was actually PFA Team of the Year 0001, and Howard was Team of the Year 0304, so they got as many as Schmeichel.
Yeah, crazy.
Crackers, right? But Van der Sar, look, he came in, won the League Cup in 05-06, 4-0 victory in Cardiff over Wigan, which was really the beginning of the birth of that team, wasn't it? Rooney and Ronaldo set fire that day. Often the League Cup, I know Mourinho's used it in the past as a sort of springboard, and that really was a springboard, wasn't it?
It definitely was.
So League Cup there, and then the next season, 06-07, Premier League champions again with Edwin van der Sar, obviously a massive, massive part. And then 07-08, Premier League and Champions League winners, and van der Sar's finest moment, of course, in Moscow, when he, first of all, made Terry slip and miss, and then save from Nicolas Anelka to give us the European Cup. Just unbelievable times, right?
Yeah, and I remember it was at the time that Ronaldo was scoring 40 goals a season, and we had such amazing attacking talent on the pitch that it sort of went unnoticed that we went, I think, 12 Premier League games without conceding a goal, which was a record at the time, and our defence was probably the best in Europe.
Yeah, well, 08-09, we did that massive run, didn't we? 1,311 minutes, 21 hours, 14 clean sheets. Before we chucked one in at Newcastle, Lovencrans. But it was, yeah, you're right, that defence was monumental. And Van der Sar was different to Schmeichel, wasn't he? Brilliant with the ball at his feet, but also a great communicator. Dominated his box in a very different way, but they were both very adept at dominating that box.
Yeah, he was a bit more humble, wasn't he, than Schmeichel? But he was every bit as good a goalkeeper.
Yeah, he was absolutely superb. And funnily enough, his 42.17% clean sheet percentage is the best Premier League record for a United keeper over 50 appearances. And the best bit about that is it includes his 4 years at Fulham.
Oh, really?
Yeah, can you believe that?
I think if you or I were to play as goalkeeper with Ferdinand, Vidic, Neville and Evra ahead of us, we wouldn't concede a lot of goals either. Don't forget to give proper respect to those defenders as well, because that was a real team effort.
And I think also you got to say, of course, with Schmeichel, that team was much more gung-ho. We left Schmeichel a lot more isolated than Van der Sar ever was. We were playing 4-4-2, we were flying forward, and at times there was the thing that, we might concede 1 or 2, but we'll score 3 or 4 and that'd be fine. Whereas that team with Van der Sar, we were setting up more for Europe. We were playing different formations that were more defensive. Whereas in the 90s, we were off the blooming off the park half the time, weren't we? Going all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, when you look back at it, you think of Bruce and Pallister as a fantastic centre-back partnership for us, and were both fantastic players, but they weren't a touch on Ferdinand and Vidic. I mean, Ferdinand and Vidic were probably 2 of the 3 best defenders in the world at the time.
Yeah.
And probably the 2 best of their generation. Different gravy, as you like to say.
Yeah, when they look at, they compare centre-back to the Premier League era, normally you choose one from each of the great sides. And always when you see Ferdinand and Vidic in there, you think, bloody hell, how good were we?
Yeah.
Absolutely superb. But yeah, Van der Sar was a massive part of that. And he was a good balance to those characters as well, I think, the different characters that were there. He was in the PFA Team of the Year in 06-07. Also 08-09 when we won the Premier League again. We won the League Cup in 2010, but it was actually Ben Foster the hero, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Your pal saving from Spurs. Didn't he have an iPad or something? I seem to remember. And everyone's like, oh, height of technology. Oh, he's got an iPad with he watched a little video first, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And Van der Sar actually wasn't on the bench that day either. And of course, we had Thomas Kuszczak backing him up for those years as well. Another name we can throw in there as well. And then 2011, won the Premier League and played his last game. And you know what, Scott? I really thought it was going to be Schmeichel Mark II, win the Champions League in your last game for United. But unfortunately, I must say it was one of Van der Sar's worst moments. I think that final. I didn't think he was great that day.
No, that was a bad moment, unfortunately.
It was. But he of course, was a hero in Moscow. He had won another European Cup at Ajax as well. Loads of good moments for United, loads of amazing saves, and part of one of the most, I think, probably the most successful compact period for Premier Leagues, a League Cup, Champions League. Never won an FA Cup, though.
Yeah, we went through that long stretch of not winning one. But
yeah, really wound me up as well, Scott, I must say. So we had 6 years without a keeper, really, between Schmeichel, and we had 6 years of Van der Sar. Which were absolutely glorious. And then David de Gea came straight in, didn't he, to replace Van der Sar. Signed from Atletico, wonder kid. What was he, 19, 20 years old when we signed him?
Something like that, yeah.
First season, you have to say, there was massive question marks over De Gea. The press were loving it, weren't they? They said, "Oh, look, the same as when Schmeichel left. Look, Van der Sar's gone. Fergie can't spot a keeper. The old nonsense comes out again." But he responded fantastically, didn't he, David De Gea?
He did. I don't think it was ever really a problem with his shot stopping, right? It was just his strength in the box for dealing with crosses and corners and what have you. From day one, for me, always showed that he was one of the best shot stoppers I'd ever seen.
Of course, there were times when he shared a spot with Anders Lindegaard in those first couple of years. 11-12, of course, was the year that we don't like to mention. But then 12-13, Fergie's last year, and De Gea's only Premier League title win. And he was a massive part, wasn't he?
Definitely was, and just had sort of grown into his role and become even better.
And you just wonder if Fergie had stayed on. You think of Schmeichel, you think of Van der Sar. They only had one manager at United ever to take the lead. Whereas with David De Gea, well, including interim bosses and stuff, he's had a bloody handful, hasn't he?
Yes.
We do have to mention Anders Lindegaard, of course. We always bemoan the fact that he played in that last game, Fergie's last game, at the Hawthorns, and was responsible, I think, for chucking it away. He was, wasn't he? Come on. Look, De Gea, he has been a keeper in a time where, if we're comparing trophies, he's not going to stand up to Schmeichel and Van der Sar. He won the Premier League in 13. He was the Players' Player of the Year in 13-14. He was the Fans' Player of the Year in the same year. He won the double again of the Player of the Year 14-15. 15-16, he was the Sir Matt Busby Fans' Player of the Year again. We won the FA Cup that year. Next year, League Cup and Europa League under Mourinho in 17. He won the double Player of the Year again in 17-18. You forget how many times he blooming won it. Players' Player and a Fans' Player of the Year as well, but just the one Premier League, one FA Cup, one League Cup and Europa League to his name. I do have to say, though, 4 Player of the Year Sir Matt Busby trophies is a record. Only Keane, Van Nistelrooy and Ronaldo has won it in consecutive seasons. De Gea won it 3 in a row, 14, 15, 16. And only Ronaldo has won 3. De Gea obviously with 4. And the only player ever to win the Players' Player 3 times in a row. 3 times. Ronaldo and Valencia, Tony Valencia, unbelievably, the only players to have won it twice. So PFA Team of the Year 5 times, 4 in a row, 15, 16, 17, 18. So in terms of individual accolades, Schmeichel does Van der Sar and Schmeichel, but in terms of trophies, he's left behind.
Yeah, but I think that goalkeepers can only win as much as the outfielders can do, right? And unfortunately, he hasn't been blessed with a fantastic team around him. He's been a bright spark in a pretty dreary spell for us, and the only thing you can really do is to be grateful for his loyalty towards us and for not leaving to Real Madrid for those couple of summers that we really needed him to stay. And he's been a loyal servant for us.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree, of course, you can only really do as well as the team around you, but it does also stand out that Schmeichel missed a lot of games in that 95 season when we had Howard and Carroll at the helm. We finished third, and Fergie never finished third, first or second every time, So there's 2 sides to it, isn't there? Definitely. There's also you lift a team, but when you're Player of the Year every year, then it does stand out that you're fans, and when you're fans and Player of the Year, there's not much doubt about it that you're the top man in the team.
No, and it's very weird historically for United to have a goalkeeper that's twice as good as every outfield player. He has been head and shoulders above most of our squad for the last 10 years, and his Player of the Year trophy collection shows that.
Yeah. Of course, in De Gea's time, we also had Victor Valdez, didn't we, for a couple of appearances? That was a weird one as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, what was that about?
I remember Hull away. It's Van Gaal's first season when he first played his full game. We were going bananas over him, singing all kinds of songs. You know what we're like, mental fans, of course. But yeah, that was a weird one as well, wasn't it? It almost seems like it didn't happen.
Yeah, it was strange. I was doing one of those quizzes of can you name every signing after Fergie, every Manchester United signing after Fergie, and he was the only one I missed out.
You're joking.
Amazingly enough. I've got every other one, but I forgot him.
Nice performance, I must say.
Oh, cheers.
But yeah, as we said, that we have to mention a couple of the oldies. Alex Stepney, 539 appearances for United, 175 clean sheets. Won the league in 67 and the FA Cup in 77, European Cup in 68, and nothing in between, funnily enough, for him. And also Harry Gregg, the hero of Munich, as they call him, only signed 2 months before. And he actually, unfortunately, missed the 63 FA Cup final with injury and the 65-67 league. Didn't get a medal through injuries as well. So a little bit, of course, his career highlighted by the Munich air crash. But those are two names from the past that stand out. And we've had a few others throughout the years, haven't we, as well? But really, in our time, it comes down to those three. Have you got your favourite Schmeichel moments or saves for me, Scott?
Yeah.
You want to go first or me?
Top three. I mean, one of them is that performance away at Newcastle, 96.
Yeah, I got that too.
It was just ridiculous, right? He single-handedly kept us in the game that first half or first 15, 20 minutes. The second one is his penalty save against Bergkamp in 99.
Yeah.
Goes without saying how important that was for us. And my favourite moment for him actually was seeing him lifting the European Cup.
Yeah.
His final job for United was to lift the European Cup with Fergie, and it's an image that will be ingrained in my brain forever.
And he called Fergie up, didn't he? He said, "No, come on." Yeah. And he almost lifted Fergie up with the cup, didn't he?
Yeah, wonderful shot. Yeah. What about yours?
I've got the same. I've also just a nice. Something that always sticks in the memory was him after we won it in '93. He was walking around with a crown on his head, pretending to throw the Premier League crown into the crowd. It's just something that sticks in the memory from the first one, along with the three that you mentioned. Funnily enough, have you got your top three saves of him? I'll start us off with his save against Rapid Vienna.
Yeah,
the legendary save where he got down and fired it over the bar. One of Schmeichel's sort of flagship saves, I think. And of course, we've already mentioned the Bergkamp 99 penalty save as well. I found it hard to narrow it down to three saves as you go through them. Some of his earlier saves as well.
Yeah.
There was the save from Hutchinson at Anfield in 92-93. Remember, he spun round. And that was again, it was crucial on the way to that title win.
You're right. They just all sort of fused into one.
They do, and there's some more legendary saves. You've got the Zamorano save against Inter in the quarterfinal of the Champions League.
Yeah, there was that one at Spurs as well.
Yeah, that save against Trevor Morley, West Ham, 93-94 again, when he dived right down to his left and just tipped it onto the post. Remember that one?
Yeah, sort of.
Also another one is it's got to be John Barnes, Fat John Barnes Mark II for Newcastle. That header, because we had conceded we lost 5-0, didn't we, the year before? And then it was another massive performance at St James's by Schmeichel. So yeah, those are the ones for me. What about Edwin?
Edwin, I remember he had that fantastic save away at Bolton when he was stretching all the way out. He had some
Fabrice Muamba.
Yeah, I think it was Muamba, wasn't it? It was amazing. It's funny. These three goalkeepers, they sort of have their own styles, right? Schmeichel sort of invented that starfish save where he just comes out and makes himself as big as possible.
Yeah.
And De Gea sort of what he does with his feet, how he saves some of these shots with his feet is quite unbelievable. But Edwin, he had the stretch out as far as you can possibly stretch and just tip it around the post. He had a few of those that I remember he had one at Arsenal as well. I can't remember who it was against. Maybe it was Gallas.
Yeah, it was,
something like that he. I
think if we're thinking about the same one, yeah.
And then I think that his best save was probably in Moscow, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I was mimicking him up in the stands in the Luzhniki Stadium. I remember, for the John Terry one, I was mimicking him, arms outstretched like he did. And then again for the Anelka save. One that I didn't mention earlier on purpose because I knew we'd get back round to it was the Darius Vassell penalty save with his legs away at City when we were going for the title. First title in many years.
Yeah.
That was a monster save as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, good one.
Yeah, it was a classic. Other ones that stick out for me from Van der Sar is the Fernando Torres header. It was like a curling header, reminiscent to one of the old Brazilian Ronaldo headers. He seemed to be able to curl the ball with his head, which was weird. Like you say, totally outstretched. Didn't seem to have as much spring, possibly as De Gea or Schmeichel, but he used those long limbs. That was a superb save. Harry Kewell header at Anfield sticks out for me as well. When a cross comes in and someone gets a little flick, it's one of the hardest saves to do because you're sort of rooted to the spot for a second. But he seemed to read it all the way, and that one sticks out as well. Another crouch volley at Anfield as well in the same year, 06-07 again, when he blasted it, and it just seemed an incredible save as well from Van der Sar. The other thing that sticks out with Van der Sar, he's got to be his 3 saves in the Charity Shield when he saved all 3 Chelsea penalties and we beat them 3-0 in the shootout. Pizarro, Lampard and Wright Phillips, the same season as later on we would beat Chelsea on penalties in the Champions League. So that's another one that sticks out. Go for Dave, go on.
One away at Chelsea, that Mata one that we talked about a few weeks ago, that one at Anfield, and the one at home to the Leighton Baines last minute shot.
Yeah. I loved his Stoke Matrix save, didn't I?
Yeah.
That was classic. His save away at Sevilla as well sticks out. I must say as well, the Romelu Lukaku penalty save in the FA Cup semi was a particularly massive moment as well in 16.
Yeah, I remember he saved a Van Persie penalty earlier in his career too.
Yeah, he saved more penalties earlier in his career. Look, he saved 5 for United, but he saved 5 for Atletico Madrid as well. He saved 5 for Atletico Madrid in like a season and a half, and 5 for United in, God, it's been sort of 9 years now, hasn't it?
10 years.
Unbelievable. Best performances stick out, of course, with David de Gea as well. It's got to be Spurs at Wembley,
Yeah.
Arsenal at the Emirates when he just seemed unbeatable those days. And you just wonder again if he was in a stronger side, how much more he might have won. Best moment, of course, is winning the 2013 title.
Yeah, got to be. Got to
Yeah.
be.
I mean, if you had to put together the perfect keeper, what would you go for in terms of shot stopping? Who would you have out of the 3?
De Gea.
Yeah, me too. One-on-ones, it's a tricky one.
Maybe Schmeichel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although De Gea has sort of developed his own style, hasn't he? That sort of long gate, sort of cricket style, long gate. But yeah, I'd go for Schmeichel, I think, as well. Throws?
Probably maybe Van der Sar with that. Although Schmeichel was unbelievable. He could throw it 60 yards.
I'd go for Schmeichel with that. Remember his throw against QPR, was it?
Okay.
It was a monster throw. Passing, I'd go Van der Sar. What about you?
Maybe De Gea. I think with the ball at his feet, he's just as good as an outfielder.
I'll have to go Van der Sar there, I reckon.
Okay.
Punts?
Van der Sar.
I'd go Schmeichel for the whoppers, although you're right, Van der Sar was very accurate, got a few assists as well. And box domination.
It's got to be Schmeichel.
Yeah, Schmeichel. I'd go for that as well. If you had to choose one, who do you go for, mate?
I'd go with De Gea.
Out of the 3?
Yeah, I would.
So what, in any United team, you think De Gea would have been better in...
No. I think if I was United manager for a game tomorrow and I had the chance of all 3 of them, I would pick David de Gea.
Yeah. But your greatest keeper of all time for United?
Probably Peter Schmeichel, isn't it?
Yeah. Personally, I go Schmeichel both ways. I think Schmeichel, just in terms of domination of the box, I think De Gea is found a bit wanting. In terms of defensive organisation, I think that's it's a big part of keeping that is not. It's not highlighted as well. There's no stats for it, is there?
All right.
But I'd edge towards Schmeichel myself there. You got your favourite Schmeichel shirts to round us off with?
Yeah, of course.
I know you're an absolute. Are you wearing one today?
No, I'm not.
You don't fit them anymore, do you?
No, unfortunately not. Number 5 would be that purple and pink one that we're trying to emulate this season.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Go on, you give me one.
I've only got the top 3 of my keeper's
All
tops.
right.
So you go 5-4.
We've got that royal blue and light blue away shirt. It was a bit mental, wasn't it? I think it was 97.
Yeah.
Like that. Go on.
I'll go. My number 3 is actually an Adidas one. It's the blue Adidas. It's first season when he had the blue kit with a sort of electrical black stripe down it, and I like the blue away one was particularly tasty. I thought.
I like that white one with the black woolly turtleneck. Remember it had the yellow and blue Umbro signs down it.
It didn't age well with all those washes, though, did it?
No, it definitely didn't.
It got tatty, didn't it?
Yeah,
really tatty.
And my favourite one was actually another white one. It was that white, green, and gold one. That I think we wore it with the blue shirt in '97.
Yeah, I know the one.
Yeah.
No, I like the '94 Cup final one, the white with the yellow and blue Umbro on it. And my favourite is the classic. It's the blue with the green sleeves.
Yeah.
Although an honourable mention goes to the green one with the yellow checkers that we won the title down at the Riverside in.
Yeah, that was a good one too. It's funny, you look back at Umbro and you think, they made some pretty boring kits, but their goalkeeper kits were off the chain.
I think they were, weren't they? I mean, I think 90s keepers kits in general were a lot better, weren't they? I mean, they're really funky. I mean,
yeah, but they went too far with George Campos, didn't they?
Well, he was designing his own.
Mental. Yeah, ridiculous. And Shilliver as well. But they did a good job with our goalkeeper shirts.
Oh, they were
It's funny because this season we have 4 goalkeeper kits and they all sort of mesh into one. Whereas you think back in the day, they were all so different and also just daring, I think you'd say. These days, they're very safe.
Yeah, I think that, and there was a bit of individuality to them, wasn't there? They were like, that's a United shirt. And I think now they just bring out a template and every man and his dog's got them,
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I think what I'd much rather is they give us classic shirts for the outfield players, like not with all this gunk all over it, and then go mad with the keeper shirts. That's how we used to do it. And it worked perfectly, didn't it?
Yeah, now it seems like just going mad with the away shirt.
Oh, God, don't start home away and third this year, Scott. Brace yourself.
Yeah.
Brace yourself, mate. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for joining us again. Jump onto our Instagram at United100 Podcast for great United content and podcast latest news. Subscribe wherever you get your pods and keep those reviews and 5-star ratings coming. We'll be back on Friday. Until then, take care. Thanks for your company, Scott.
Thank you, TC.
Cheerio, Reds.
Ta-ra.